Let me pose a bold question. Can the laws of physics actually create the universe out of literal nothing? Most of us, at some point, have heard Stephen Hawking's assertion rooted in concepts like quantum mechanics and the cosmological constant that physics can pull existence out of a void. But here's where John Lennox, the mathematician, draws a hard line. He says, hold on, if the laws exist, we're already not dealing with nothing. In science, a law describes how things behave, not how they appear in the first place. Think of physical law like the rules of chess they tell you. How pieces move, not who carved the chessboard or built the table. The technical terms here are efficient cause, the thing that actually brings something about, and descriptive law, which just outlines regularities. Confusing the two is like confusing a recipe with an oven. The recipe can't bake a cake by itself. Now you might be thinking, but if the laws govern the universe, don't they somehow generate it? It's tempting, but it's a category mistake. And that mistake underpins some of the grand claims in contemporary cosmology. Lennox's critique is not just semantics, it's about logical consistency at the highest levels of scientific discourse. If we take Hawking's statement at face value, we stumble into the paradox. Laws of physics, by their very nature, presuppose something to act on. There's no such thing as gravity in a universe with no mass, or energy gravity is a relationship, not a conjurer's trick. That's not just a philosophical quibble. It's a foundational principle, as essential as energy conservation or entropy. So, whenever you hear about physics conjuring reality ex nihilo, ask yourself, are we talking about instructions, or the craftsman who wields them? This distinction is often glossed over, but it changes the entire existential conversation. Let me tell you a story that cuts through the abstraction. Imagine you have a bank account. The laws of arithmetic 1 + 1 = 2 can track your deposits, but they can't put money into your account. Lennox uses this analogy to devastating effect against Paul Davies' notion that mathematical laws could be so clever as to bring things into being. It's a category mistake. Laws can predict, describe, and guide, but they cannot produce or cause matter or energy. Technically, this is conflating ontological status, the nature of being, with epistemological description, how we know about being, arithmetic, or Newton's law of gravitation, simply maps relationships. They don't have agency. It's like expecting Google Maps to generate a city, when all it does is chart one. Now, you might be arguing, but if the universe unfolds according to laws, what's wrong with saying the laws are the cause? Here's the conflict. That's mistaking the blueprint for the builder. A law of gravity does not pull a rock downward. Gravity itself is a property of mass interacting with space-time, not a creative power. The laws don't act, they describe action. The resolution? Recognize that in both philosophy and physics, causation requires more than just rules. It needs an efficient cause, an agent or process that brings about change. Without this, the narrative of creation from nothing is just that, a narrative, not an explanation supported by empirical data or logical rigor. So, next time you hear someone say, "Physics explains everything," ask, does it explain the existence of its own laws, or just how things behave once they exist? The difference isn't trivial, it's the very heart of the debate. We've explored the limits of what physical laws can actually do. But what about the broader question? Does acknowledging lawfulness in the universe require us to invoke a mind, or something greater? We might as well learn from Albert Einstein, who, in contrast to what Davies and Hawking argue, once wrote, "Everyone who is seriously engaged in science becomes convinced that the laws of nature manifest the existence of a spirit vastly superior to that of men, and one in the face of which we, with our modest powers, must feel humble." Now that's not a throwaway line. It's a statement of scientific humility.